Hey guys, and welcome to the Microphone Madness podcast. My name's Daniel Lewis, and this week is Keanu Reeves week because I love Keanu Reeves, and this is the reason why we're bringing it to the podcast. Keanu Reeves is one of my favorite actors, and I don't know if he's overrated or underrated, but I fucking love Keanu Reeves. I took a look at how many movies he had. I wanted to do like a Keanu Reeves, like the best of Keanu Reeves. But the more I did research on Keanu Reeves, I realized he's done over 80 films starting from the 80s to current time, And it would have been kind of hard to watch that many films to then make an episode to consolidate all of it. The set piece here is everything that I own Keanu Reeves related, which are all the Matrix movies right here. I didn't bring Animatrix because he's not in it. It's a cartoon. This is cool. It's a sealed Matrix Revelations with a bonus CD-ROM, which is kind of cool. I found this and I was like, I think it's a cool thing to have. So I have that. I'm wearing this attire because today we're going to talk about Constantine, and I have a trench coat and I have a nice suit. It's not the $200 shirt that Constantine says he wears in the movie, but we have John Wick here, John Wick 3. I have 1, 2, and 3. I liked this cover. We have Scanner Darkly. We have Thumbsucker, which is a movie that I haven't seen yet, but I'm kind of interested in seeing. He's not the main guy in it, but he's this dentist guy. So just really interested in seeing that. If you guys have seen that movie, let me know what that's like in the comments. And then I have Constantine the game, as well as Cyberpunk. And Cyberpunk is a game that Keanu Reeves kind of stars in as well. So this is everything I have Keanu Reeves physically. And like I said, Keanu Reeves has been doing a lot of movies for a long time. And it seems like he's done every genre. He's done thriller, he's done crime, he's done sci-fi, he's done action, as we all know. And he's done like rom-coms and just comedies. So he's just like an overall like just experienced actor, So, let's get into this, guys. Let's get into this. All right, I'm trying to set up a different set up here to make podcasts as well as film the podcast. Man, has it been a hell of a ride just creating this podcast. It's a lot of work, guys. So if I keep looking this way, I'm looking at my screen just to get my notes down. All right, so let's talk about the character Constantine, So, and the relationship I've kind of had with this movie. I think I did see it when it came out in theaters. It came out in 2005. I was kind of young. If it wasn't that, maybe I saw it on home video when I rented it from like Hollywood Movie or Blockbuster. But either way, I have very fond memories of this movie. And just like the previous episode, I tried to do like a retrospect and just try to jump into things that I really thought were awesome when I was young and to see, revisit, and say, was it as good as I remember it was? And for this, yes, it was as good as I remember it was, and we'll talk a little bit about why. I do have some issues with it, but I think overall it's a cool movie. I have some memories of playing the video game. I did play the video game on PlayStation 2 when it came out, and I played this version, which is actually, withstanding a little in price because it's backwards compatible with Xbox 360, so you can play it on a nice flat screen, and it looks nice. When I played it on PlayStation 2, it didn't look as nice, and usually graphics aren't as good as the original Xbox, so playing it again on the Xbox, has been fun, and it's an overall third-person shooter. Haven't played too much of it. I just want to beat Resident Evil 3 before I jump into this and try to beat this game entirely. But anyway, so since I have the back of this movie, we're going to just, I'm going to give you a little what the back of the movie says. because it's probably better than what I could write for it. It says, John Constantine sees demons walk the earth, and he aims to do something about it. Send them back to hell. As Constantine. The Matrix's Keanu Reeves fights a new otherworld foe in his eye-opening supernatural thriller based on characters from DC Comic. Hellblazer, a graphic novel and set in the city of Los Angeles, where spirit world bounds are broken and all hell is broken loose. Holy water, dragon's breath, flamethrower, a shotgun crafted by a crucifix aimed with these, assisted by the detective Rachel, who I don't know her last name, can't really say it. John Constantine is a spiritual warrior gone to an apocalyptic world. Be glad he's on your side. Yeah. That was a good description of what this movie is, for sure. Let's get into this movie. Let's get into like what Constantine is a little bit. So the character Constantine's actually a DC comic character. And he was featured first in the Swamp Thing series. Swamp Thing's a really cool illustrated comic, one of my favorite DC characters, and you know, that comic book is just like very interesting when it comes to like DC. I'm more of a Marvel guy, but I do like certain DC characters. So Swamp Thing's definitely like one of the characters that I do really like. And Constantine actually was featured in the Swamp Thing storyline, and that's where he was introduced. And apparently he's an anti-hero, and I kind of did some research of Constantine the comic book to kind of find the history and like why is Constantine so cool, you know? If you're gonna compare the movie to the comic books, they are a little different. I do like, this is also an origin story, and some of the origin within the movie is a tad bit different than the comic books. I like the way this movie looks, guys. I like the vibe and the aesthetic. I think that Keanu Reeves in this movie looks pretty fucking badass, and it has a lot of moments of cinematography that just seem like really cool. It's kind of like music video. I don't know. There's like one scene where it's just like the intro, just like a zoom in of a cigarette just dropping on the ground when he gets out of a cab. And just small kind of things like that kind of give it like the comic book feel. So it is a little comic booky. Is that a good way? Comic booky? It's a little bit like a comic book, I guess. And I think that, you know, there's some things that like justify this movie and make it less corny or whatever it may be than it could have been. So let's get into this, guys. So yeah, that's the introduction of Constantine. All right, before we get into the actual storyline and stuff like that, I just want to thank our sponsor of the podcast, Hawk Motorsports. It's HWK Motorsports. You can find them on Instagram. They're actually a leather jacket motorsport apparel company. And last episode, I wore the leather jacket in the podcast. And, you know, here's a little picture of what it looks like kind of thing. But hey, guys, if you want an affordable, high quality, 100% leather jacket that comes in all different styles, I really appreciate it. I do really appreciate it because they actually sponsored me. They collabed with me, and it was just because something I reached out to them and was like, "Hey, you guys are awesome. I do a lot of podcasts. I'm in bands. I do stuff where I can really utilize your leather jacket." And they were nice enough to send me, as well as a couple members in my band, the leather jacket. And I really stand by this company. They're really generous, really nice, and I wouldn't be promoting something that I don't really necessarily like or believe in. So please check out Hawk Motorsports. I'll leave a description down below in the description. I'll leave a link, down below in the description, and check them out. Hey, I got one of the leather jackets under $100, guys. The one that I got and the one I really enjoy is that classic biker look. Comes with full padding, and which you could take out. Has a lot of cool pockets in it. And it's called the Brando jacket. So if you're looking for that one specifically, it's called the Brando. So check that out. We're gonna go over, the summary, kind of synopsis of what this film is, and some cool scenes and some things to note. The things I love about it, the things I kind of feel about. But yeah, let's get into this a little bit. So I personally think the reason why I love this film is because even though some of the CGI isn't top of the line, this movie came out in 2005, and I should have done, and I realize I fucked up here, what movies came out in 2005 to compare this to. But honestly, without comparing anything, the only thing that really suffers from this aging is the fact that the CGI isn't really that great. It doesn't look very realistic, but they do some practical effects and some practical makeup effects that really kind of, like, some shots look really cool. And some of the CGI is not great, but some of it is pulled off good enough to be like, okay, it's actually pretty good, So yeah, that's one thing I'm definitely going to mention a lot is the CGI in this movie. But the overall, like, scenes, like the director and like the writer of like, okay, like this is gonna how it's starting off. This is like what's gonna happen like when he's on the street, stuff like that, and like it was very entertaining. It was very it tells a story. It's action packed. It's suspenseful in ways. It's dramatic in ways. I would consider this, an action film for sure. Kind of like a superhero action film in a way, bringing up a character. But it has a lot of elements that I think make this not just a, single shot, single-handedly movie, that's just a action film with a bunch of explosions. Like this has a lot of elements that I feel like make it interesting for what it is. Keanu Reeves was asked if there's any movie you'd want to bring back, if there's any sequel or another movie that you'd want to do that you've already done when it came to the franchises you've created, what would you want to do? Which character would you want to be? We have John Wick 4 coming out, which I'm like, I want to see in theaters, and I fucking cannot wait for that. But that's something that he's asked. And he always brings up being John Constantine again. So I feel like this film is probably where it is for him in my spectrum of Keanu Reeves' best work, or like favorite films that he's been in. So I thought that was pretty interesting to mention, because he's like, yeah, I want to be Constantine again. They try to do a Constantine sequel. It keeps getting canceled. He keeps pitching it. They don't want to make it. And I'm thinking, why? Why? I'm thinking maybe it didn't do that well. Hey, they made a game, guys. I'm sure it did pretty okay, But yeah, anyway, let's talk about the movie here. It starts off in Mexico with these two guys. They're just like, looking around on the ground for stuff. I don't know if they're like workers or like doing some kind of job, but I like the character. He kind of has like a screwed up eye, so something's like kind of charismatic about him, but his foot falls into the ground. I guess there was planks. It was like dirt and then planks or something, but his foot goes through the ground into this hole, and he sees this flag. Inside the flag is this dagger. And this dagger, once you hold it, once it's in your hands, it kind of gives you these psychic abilities, and maybe gives you like, possesses you or something. So the beginning of this movie is pretty dope. I actually like the beginning of this movie. Right away, the CGI was immediately, but I just think the scene's cool. It has a lot of cool moments. That's what I really like about this movie, the moments in this movie. But gets the dagger, his friend talking to him, and basically he's like telling him, and I'm like, I don't really know Spanish very well, but he was like, yo, like, watch out for the traffic, and he like, the other guy's like, he's walking, and then all of a sudden he just gets hit by a car, and he doesn't die. So like, you see the hit, and that doesn't look so great with the CGI, but the whole car is like sort of split in half, and then you see the guy in the middle, and he kind of just, and the acting here and just the way it is like, okay, like, I don't mind it, whatever. Kind of just like, like gets up a little bit, jumps away, and just like walks away kind of thing. Where I'm like, okay, wow. And that's kind of like the beginning of this movie, kind of being like, all right, this guy found this dagger, he has supernatural powers now, he got hit by a car, he survived, what's gonna come up next? And the next scene, which is the introduction, aside from that, which I guess it kind of sets up the premise a little bit and kind of gives a little mystery of like, what the fuck was that? It comes out to, you have John Constantine in his cab, so he doesn't own a car. I mean, a lot of people don't own a car in New York City. It's not New York City, oh my God, it's Los Angeles. He's from Los Angeles. It takes place in LA. So he's driving around on his cab, and the cab driver is starred by Shia LaBeouf, but it's like a 14-year-old Shia LaBeouf, or like a 16-year-old Shia LaBeouf, but the character he plays is really like an early 20s guy, I feel like. Like, I feel like he acts older than he is, and at first I was like, all right, he's the comic relief, or just something doesn't match very well. But I mean, I like Shia LaBeouf. I like his acting. I think, he actually used to be, the way I found Shia LaBeouf was in Even Stevens. It's a show on Disney Channel. So he's kind of like, he's a Disney Channel kid, kind of. So, but his acting's good. He's never been a bad actor, in my opinion. So having him be in it, actually, I was like, oh, that's kind of intriguing. I kind of forgot that he was in this movie. And I forgot how much he was in this movie. But basically, I kind of found it weird being like, so Keanu Reeves always gets picked up by this 15-year-old Shia LaBeouf that's the cab driver. So it starts off like that. There's a priest or a father that basically calls Keanu Reeves in because it's some situation's getting a little out of hand. He goes into this apartment complex where it looks like there's a lot of like Asians or Filipinos that are in this building. And it's this Asian girl that's kind of possessed in her bedroom, and the father calls him up saying, can you help with this? I think we might need to do an exorcism kind of deal. And this movie starts off strong, guys. It starts off high tension, here we go, like everything about it like sucks you in, I feel like, right away, which is cool. It kind of shows the day in the life of John Constantine, what he does, how he does it. Walks in, he knows demons don't like sunlight, rips the fucking drapes off the window, and pretty much is like, has this little keychain with some keys in it, and each of them has a symbol on it, I think, and he's siphoning through them until one of them reacts, where the demon reacts to one of them. I thought that was kind of cool. So he's going through, and then like he finds one, and the demon's like, ah! And then he's like, okay, that's it. Gets on the bed. I think the demon's tied down at this point. Gets on the bed. He puts that spoon like symbol thing on its forehead and is like, starts doing this prayer type thing, and he's like, hey, this is John Constantine, asshole. This is John Constantine, asshole. And so I was like, okay, that's a catchphrase.
John Constantine, asshole.
So I was like, okay, that's a catchphrase. Okay. I don't know if that's said in the comics. But then it shoots back to Shia LaBeouf in the cab, and he's looking at himself in the rearview mirror. He's like, yeah.
Mrs. Kramer,
Chaz Kramer, asshole. What? Oh, this is Kramer. Chaz Kramer, asshole.
Chaz! What? Move the car.
It kind of shows that he like looks up to him, but I just thought that was kind of funny because it was like literally like a couple seconds after he was like John Constantine, asshole. Then it switches to Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, Chaz Kramer, asshole. So it was like kind of making fun of the catchphrase, which I thought was kind of like, okay, if you're gonna be corny, make fun of it, you know? So I like that. I thought that was kind of funny. There's a lot of times where Shia LaBeouf was just fucking hilarious in this movie. So I have some notes and pulling up some names of characters here just in case I forget. So yeah, Chaz Kramer is the like cab driver kid that drives him around. So basically, he looks. John Constantine looks at everybody that's in the building that's kind of like witnessing and helping. He's like, I need a 3-foot mirror and go get it right away. And he's like trying to figure out how to like do the exorcism to take the demon out of this young girl. And he goes to the cab driver outside the window. He's like, yo, move your car. And this whole scene is awesome. I don't mind if the demons look like they're a PlayStation 4 character, like graphically. I feel like if you guys were to watch this on Blu-ray, I watched it on DVD, so it made it wasn't the best quality, but I feel like if you were to watch this shit fucking in the most highest quality, the CGI is gonna look even worse. And again, I really don't mind having the demons kind of look a little computerized because it is what it is. But this scene, basically he tells everybody close their eyes. It's a bunch of guys, like 3 on each side, holding this mirror above the bed so it looks so the girl's like looking up and there's a mirror there. It's this kind of like strategic thing that he does to help suck out the demon, and the demon gets sucked out into the mirror. He takes the mirror, pulls it through the window, and it shatters everywhere, but it happens to shatter all over the roof of Shia LaBeouf's taxi cab. And he's like, dude, why'd you do that? He's like, I told you to move your car. So that's how the scene opens. The movie opens. I do like it, like introducing John Constantine. I think that's probably the best way you could have opened his introduction. You know, kind of gives you exactly his style, who he is, his charisma, all that stuff, all in this one scene. I was about to say John Wick. John Constantine's apartment, which is above a bowling alley, his apartment looks dope. Like, I believed it. I believed that John Constantine lived there. It's kind of a little run down. It's kind of creepy. It's huge, but it's just like the aesthetic of his apartment is really cool. It is comic booky, but it's also dark, and I don't know, man. It's just like, I mean, I'll show you guys what it looks like. It has a very cool aesthetic to this movie. A lot of the movie is like that. And that's why I do love this movie, aside from the moments. But just the way it looks really makes it a gem, you know? He goes to a church where he speaks to Gabriel, which is one of the characters, one of the main characters. Gabriel is, I wish I was prepared. She's an actress. I'll put her name here. I'll put her face here. A very well-known actress. I guess Gabriel is a little bit higher up within the ladder of God. Which pretty much means she can tell who she knows if someone's gonna go to heaven or hell, specifically John, but I guess she's an angel, but I guess she's one of the highest angels, but she's not always an angel. So John goes there. John explains, hey, look, you know, I feel like I've done enough. I've deported a lot of demons back to hell. I've served for God. I really hope that I go to heaven. Doesn't explain his illness, but basically Gabriel was basically like, you're not going to heaven no matter what. no matter what you've done for God. You still committed suicide. As that's happening, there's this woman, and I totally fucking forgot to mention this because, I mean, this is the whole fucking plot of the damn movie. But there's this woman who is a detective. She's also at the church because she wants to speak to the priest. So they go in at the same time, John and this female, who's called Isabel. No, it's not. Her name is not Isabel. Her name is Angela. Isabel's her sister. And Angela has a twin sister, which is basically the same damn actress they used twice to say that's your sister. But it's cool though. I like it though, because it all makes sense. And the reason why she's visiting the priest is because she feels like there might be spirits that are the reason to why her sister committed suicide. Her sister was in a psych ward, went to the top of a building of the psych ward, jumped off, committed suicide. Angela, her sister, the detective, believes that her sister would never do something like that. And really thinks that there's something wrong and there might be some kind of demonic kind of stuff going on. Doesn't really feel right about it, so she wants to speak to a father to figure something out regarding that. So that's kind of where she meets John Constantine, and is a very important character for the plot and what happens next. So basically, after this scene, they come out. John's lighting up a cigarette. It's pouring rain. It's pouring rain. I'm the water boy. It's pouring rain, and John Constantine's like, it's perfect weather. This guy's a fucking psychopath. This dude's kind of messed up. Like, Keanu Reeves plays a very cold-hearted motherfucker sometimes. You know, especially in John Wick when he's pissed. He's like, fuck everything. But I don't know. His personality's just dark as fuck in this movie. You know, I don't think he smiles once. But, says that line. Angela looks at him like, what the fuck? You have Shia LaBeouf's character, Kramer, or Chaz, pull up. He's sad about what John's sad about what he heard about. He's still going to fucking hell. Which shows, you know, because as a kid, it has this like little part where he like goes to hell. And the CGI in hell, like the way they show hell, they do, again guys, I don't know what the Blu-ray version of this movie looks like. Maybe because it was a watered down version of the widescreen on DVD, it looked a bit better. But, you know, as I'm older now, these kind of things bother me a little bit. So every time you're in the Hell universe, it doesn't look that great. You can almost tell it's kind of green screenish because of the dimensions. It just wasn't there yet. I think this movie was a little bit before its time. I feel like if this was made now, hell yeah, would this movie look dope with the fucking, like, I mean, the Marvel universe, like the Marvel movies now, they could pull off anything. So I feel like if this movie was made with the new technology, it would have looked so, like, it would have been, I wouldn't have had that, zero complaints really. So yeah, shows that he's in hell for 2 minutes. He knows he's going to hell. He's on the side of the street, I guess, about to light a, and like, I don't know, just on the side of the street, looking around. I think he's about to light a cigarette or something. And you hear a voice of being like, hey, you got a light? And this scene, I was like, fuck yeah, this is cool. And the CGI doesn't look that bad here. So I was saying, I was like, all right, this looks good. I'm okay with this. It's a demon, but he shapeshifts into a million bugs. Flies, rodents, not rodents, flies, like insects, a million bugs that form a figure. And I didn't mention, and it's hard, I'm trying to be organized. But before this happened, there's this character call B-Man. I like B-Man a lot. Comes in, and B-Man gives him some things, some weapons to fight against demons. I'll just cut her off there to go into the scene. One of those things that he did give him were a box of, like, it seemed like bugs or crickets in a matchbox. So when this guy asks him, oh, like, you got a light? I think he forgets that he has, it's more of like a demon repellent kind of thing. So he picks it up and he starts shaking it, and he looks and it like explodes or something, or like the fucking bug demon thing, and it kind of helps in luck John Constantine not getting obliterated by this bug demon thing. And this is such an awesome scene. Fucking love this. And he does this thing where basically he runs into the road, the demon follows him, and all the bugs get splattered on a fucking, like through a car. It was a really awesome, cool scene. So, another thing that kind of is John Wicky about this is when he goes to his special bar. It's kind of like a hideout, but it has a bar. And this is where, like I said previously in the podcast, it's like where all the demons and angels hang out to feel like, you know, to meet one another. Maybe you're a demon and you want to meet another nice, beautiful demon lady. You're not going to go to a regular bar to find that. You're going to go to the demon bar, the demon angel bar. And I love the way the beginning of having him go into the bar plays out. It's one of my favorite things. I'm totally going to mess up the quote too. I saw this movie yesterday. I feel like I should watch the movie and then do the review so it's like more fresh in my mind, but it was such a memorable movie. So you have Shia LaBeouf's character, the taxi driver, Chaz, being like, hey, can I get into the bar this time? And John's like, well, you can get into the bar. Sure. He's like, really? He's like, yeah, if you could get in, then you could get in.
Get me into this bar, John, please. I'm begging you, John, please, please.
Sure, you can get in.
I can get in?
If you can get in.
What? If I can get in. It's a bear, though, right? Or two ducks in a cloud?
Two frogs on a bench.
Two frogs on a bench. No. I'm with the guy you just... John! I'm with him, though. Red in a dress. Of course it is. Red in a dress. I'm just testing.
And I feel like there, like John has a lot of different kind of abilities, and they are very displayed throughout this entire movie of what he does. And a lot of things, like he has tattoos in it, which I'll get into one scene where he reveals them, where I'm like, yeah, those are pretty cool tattoos, and they're like on his like forearms, and I'm like, what do those mean? But they'll later explain what those are. John walking down the steps, and he says like, two ducks in a cloud, and then he's like, and then he opens the thing, walks in, and then Chaz is like, yeah, two ducks in a cloud, and he's like, nope, can't get in. And I don't know, just it's a funny scene. I love that scene. It's a really funny scene. And then later on, when they actually just like break in, he beats the shit at John Constantine, like beats the shit out of the bouncer, and Chaz is behind him, and he's like, haha, motherfucker, like he just laughs at him now because he's like, I can get in, but so it's just, it's like it's one of those like moments that are funny, but that I think is actually funny. So the reason why they go to this bar is to speak to Midnight, and that's an interesting name, I think, but it's comic book kind of story, so I think it's kind of okay. I don't like when characters have corny ass names, guys, like Midnight, or like the last movie that was a 50 Cent movie, the main guy was called Majestic. Why do they have to have these weird nicknames? But anyway, he meets Midnight, in the back room. He's like the club owner, whatever it may be, and he's like, look, this is John talking to Midnight. I believe that there's something bad that's going to happen very soon. I've experienced two experiences, which was, the Asian girl taking the demon out, and you realize that that demon was like a soldier demon. It wasn't a normal demon that you would see the cross paths cross over into the human reality world. And the other one was the bug demon, the one that shapeshifted into a million bugs. And he's explaining to them, explaining to Midnight that he doesn't think that he thinks that something is going on based off the type of demons that he's encountered so close to each other. And he thinks that something like historical or something dangerous is about to happen on Earth. And there's not too much concern that's through Midnight, coming through Midnight. And, he's trying to explain that. And he says, I need to use a chair. And I like the chair. I like how the theory of how this whole thing works, of how he can go to basically teleport into the Hell universe. It's just done kind of well, and it's a bit fantasy, but I do find it very interesting, and I do find it you can't take this movie so realistic. We're talking about demons and heaven and hell and a demon slayer and all that stuff, and it's based off a comic book, so it's fantasy, it's all that stuff, and having that stuff in mind, I don't know, it just makes up for a lot of that shit that you're like, that's not real. It's not supposed to be that real. It's supposed to be fucking entertaining. So this other guy comes in. I think this is what happened. He butts in, and this guy kind of looks like some lawyer type guy, some Wall Street type of dude. He probably worked for Leonardo DiCaprio and Wolf of Wall Street kind of guy. Walks in with a nice suit, and he says this really stupid, weird, corny line. This line where he's like, "You taste good," some shit like that. What the hell is that? You're gonna introduce this character? You kind of, I don't know. Just came off a little weird and somewhat corny. The dialogue isn't that bad in this movie. It could have been worse, but some of it was, I was like, it was kind of stupid. Like that one line that just happened. But basically, it sets up this character. It brings him into this movie. They didn't really say his name that much. I think Constantine says, it's fucking Bethhazer or whatever the fuck it is. He's not surprised. Every time there's a bad guy and he reveals, I'm the bad guy, Constantine's just yep, that makes fucking sense. I kind of knew it could have been you. You were a piece of shit in my book, but now you're definitely a piece of shit. So, after this, kind of brings the detective to Constantine. Kind of brings them, it kind of brings the premise of this movie and what this is really going to be about. So when her sister's on the roof about to jump, she has the security footage. Right before she jumps, she says, Constantine, and then jumps. And then she's like, what the fuck? And then writes that, and her sister that watched the video, writes it down, rewinds it, and then it doesn't even say that. It just jumps off the roof. But it's a little foreshadowing of another scene. But, and then once that happens, all the phones, her cell phone, her fucking house phone, her fucking, every single phone goes off at once. I don't really know the meaning of that. Maybe it's your house is possessed. Something bad's I'm like, okay, why is all the phones going off? What does that have to do with anything? You just watched a video, you just connected something weird, now all your phones are going off. Oh, it's probably because she's getting possessed, or the demons are following her. So there you go, I answered my own question. So that happens. She goes to John Constantine's house. She's like, remember me? I saw you at the church. Something bad is happening, and I really feel like it's paranormal. You do paranormal shit. She's like, can I speak to you? Can we have a conversation? He's like, no, I'm good. And this is right after he found out that he's pretty much dying from lung cancer because he keeps smoking too much. He's like, I don't really want to deal with this shit. I just need to take a fucking break, And she was like, well, if you don't want to talk, then just listen. She pulls out her badge, being like, haha, you're gonna have to talk to me anyway. So he lets her in. Basically, acts like he doesn't give a crap. She basically explains what happens. Her sister died, committed suicide. She hears things. She was just brought into the psych ward. and within 2 weeks, all this stuff, can you help, kind of thing. And he's basically like, no, I don't want to deal with this crap. Just leave my house. Like, he was kind of being a douchebag, but I kind of feel like, I don't know, if you were in his position where he's like, just found out bad news about his life, all this kind of stuff, he's been doing this for years, he's just like, I need a fucking break. You're cute. Like, I think you're a cute girl, the detective, but meh, I don't really have time for this crap. So he calls up B-Man and basically tells him the symbol. B-Man writes down the symbol and he starts shaking and freaking out because he kind of maybe knows what it could be. So I like B-Man because B-Man's kind of his like John Constantine's like weapon guy. You know, he provides basically everything to help John against these demons. He works below the bowling alley, and John and B-Man are good friends because B-Man knows demonology. B-Man is, you know, there for John, but also knows enough to accompany John when there's questions asked from John. And there's one scene I'll try to put here where he gives him like holy water in these little circular glass bottles. He has those kind of like insects in the matchbox, a couple things. And the cool thing about this is like most of the things that he does get from B-Man, he does utilize in the movie. So like he's like, here's all this stuff that I brought to you so to protect you. And like all the things that he ends up really, I think, using, that ends up giving him, he ends up actually using them in the movie. So it wasn't just like, here's a bunch of shit, and then you just like never see him use any of it. So I do like that about that, like the purpose of B-Man, and like gives him more of a purpose rather than just being like this guy, you know. But he does help John and has a lot of part being in the plot. So John sees the symbol, calls B-Man. B-Man, you know, writes down the symbol. B-Man gets it. Looks like he had it buried underground. The demonic Bible, because he like takes this wrapping off that looks like there's dirt all over it, and he like opens the book and he calls back John, talking to he's like, I found the symbol. He's like shaking, freaking out, he's getting scared, he's hearing noises in the basement of where he works. He's like and he's basically like reading it, and he's reading it in English, but you can tell that like the actual words on this Bible are like whatever demonic language is. I don't know. I really don't know like the name of the language. Maybe I'll name it. I'll like put the name of the language here. But basically, he's reading it. Definitely not English, but he's like, you know, translating it. And as he's reading it, you can tell B-Man's getting really freaked out. But this is like the whole meaning of the movie. This is the whole premise of why everything's happening. Why Isabel, Angela, detective's sister, died. What's going on here? So, I'm trying to make this fucking review as short as possible. But basically, B-Man's like, the devil wants to have the son of the devil. And the way to do that is to find someone with psychic abilities that sees things, that has these heightened abilities to be able to, you know, they brought her into hell and they need somebody else as a host. So I think they did it on purpose. They're like, these are two twins that share these same abilities. And the detective, I don't know why, but like later in the film, she's like, yeah, I did have psychic abilities. I did see too. And I think it's because she didn't mention it right away to John, was probably because she was ashamed of the fact that once her sister got on a bunch of medicine, ended up in the psych ward, you know, her and her sister were really close to each other. She's like, I lied and told everybody that I didn't see and that I didn't have these kind of visions or anything because I saw what they did to my sister and I didn't want to go through that. But I kind of threw my sister under the bus and I kind of feel somewhat responsible of her death, even though maybe demons took her. Okay, so there's one scene, and this happens like once or twice, maybe 3 times. First time this happens, he wants to go into hell to try to find out what's really going on, to try to find Isabel, to see if she is there. So he goes to Angela's apartment. She puts like water in a bowl. He puts his feet in. He's like, where Isabel's belongings? Those are all her belongings. But she had a cat. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna use your cat. And I love this scene. He kind of like holds the cat's face and like looks deep into it, and like is a host to help him transport into hell. Finds Isabel, finds her ID tag from the hospital. All this cool stuff. Really great moment. Similar moment happens, right? So after the fact that Angela admits that she had seen things, but she stopped seeing things, John's like, look, it's because you ignored your abilities. You didn't embrace them like I did, you know? He's like, when I was a young boy, like really young, like 5, 6 years old, I had no choice. I was seeing things I didn't want to see, you know? And my parents gave me shock therapy, which made it worse, and all this stuff. And I kind of used my abilities to be able to remove the demons from the world, you know? And that was his origin story. And that's what I liked a little bit different than the comics, you know? I liked how they showed it. I liked didn't linger too long. This was like basically him having a conversation with Angela about it. And it showed like, you know, back when he was a kid and all that kind of stuff. So I did really like that little origin piece of the movie. Angela feels guilty that, you know, she abandoned her sister and was like, you know what? I feel like if I had to choose who were to die, I would change, you know, trade spaces with her. So she's like, look, I want to see, I need to like find Isabel, and I need to figure this out for myself. I want to have more of these abilities. He's like, all right, we could do this. So he basically pulls up his sleeves where he exposes his tattoos, which are pretty cool tattoos, actually. And he's like, all right, instead of me putting my feet in the water like I did, you're gonna have to lay in a bathtub. She's like, oh, okay. And, you know, she's like sitting in the bathtub. He's like, you're gonna have to submerge your entire body. She's like, really? He's like, well, you wanted the whole 9 here. You know, we're gonna have to go a little extensive. You know, we're gonna have to really like do this the correct way. And this is a pretty cool scene. It's pretty kind of like almost shocking and fucked up, but basically he holds her down and she's like, well, how am I gonna know this is gonna work? He's like, you're gonna have to be underwater for as long as you can, like as long as you need for you to like pass through to the demon world. She's like, so how long? He's like, well, as long as it's gonna take, kind of thing. He puts her down. He holds her down, so he puts his hand on his chest. Like it's a lot of things with his touch and his prayers that really create his abilities. So he puts his hand on her chest, and you know, she's looking around like underwater, and you know, holding her breath. He's like, take a deep breath, like before she goes down, taking that deep breath. A lot of cool scenes of her, like a shot inside the water, what she sees above the water, another shot shooting down with her perspective of looking around the room, and she's kind of starting to run out of air now. And John holds her down. She looks at him like, I'm running out of air. What are you doing? And the look on his face is like, I don't give a fuck. He's like, I don't give a shit. This is what we have to do. And she's like, can we, like, I need to breathe. I'm gonna die. You're choking me. Holds her down and literally starts choking her under the water. And if this is like the first time you've seen this movie, like, I mean, I know that, like, I know this scene very well, even from my childhood, but you might be like, what the fuck? It's shocking. You're like, he's killing her? You know? And she starts flailing. She starts acting like she's getting suffocated. The fucking whole damn bathtub breaks in half. And she starts doing the steaming thing like he did when he passed through. So, I guess as she was getting choked from being suffocated in the water, this giant explosion happens. She sees everything, which you don't see what she sees, but she starts acting like a freaking, like, insane. Or it's like she's so shocked. She's like, I saw everything. I see all these dead people and Isabel. I'm like, okay. You know, she's freaking out. She's like woke or something from that. That scene was pretty cool. I just thought like the shot with Keanu Reeves with her perspective seeing him through the water, and his hand on her on her chest, with just a look on his face was like, "Yep, this is what we have to do. If you can't breathe, sorry." It's just fucking insane. So, how do I make this short, guys? Watch this movie. Starts realizing that, I keep forgetting his damn name. Baithazer is a hybrid demonic human guy, you know? And Baithazer, actually, his mission is to, like, get Angela as the host, you know? So, basically, he gets, Constantine's like, we have to go back to where your sister died. Kind of find that stuff out, you know? And it's this cool scene of, you know, like maybe she left something behind. They end up finding something through her sister's breath on a mirror. She's like, we used to do this thing. And it's like, you know, it's kind of weird. It's like, he's like, so what would you do in this situation? You know, twins are connected a lot of ways. Like, what would she have left? And she doesn't want to admit it, and it like gets this like really hostile, like kind of creepy thing where he starts screaming at her like, "What had she left? You probably would have known." And then she tells him, but I'm like, why couldn't you just tell him? Like, why couldn't you just say, "Oh yeah, we used to do this one thing. If we can't find anything, it's probably on the window," and then all of a sudden it has this message and it's like little like address or code or whatever. But basically, can't remember fucking why. This is why I need a co-host here. To why he ends up trying to go to Baithazer. He walks up into Baithazer's, Baithazer, where he works or whatever. I think that's what it is. Can't really remember exactly how he finds him. I think either he goes back to, this is where he goes back to Midnight's, club. I could be wrong. Anyway, finds him, basically was like, "Oh, you brought her right to us," kind of thing, you know? And this is Baithazer saying this about Angela when John walks in to his office and just like shoots through the window. His face is like obliterated, the CGI is bad, but then the practical effects on his face is really nice, and I'm like, okay, it sucked for 2 seconds, but now it looks nice. Anyway, the kind of like thickens the plot a little bit, shows that why, you know, Baithazer, I don't know his name very well, is why he's there, why he's been around, and it was like, oh, you brought Angela right to us. And Angela was supposed to wear this amulet that fucking Constantine gave her that was actually the priest that was like, you know, use this as like a bulletproof vest or whatever. Consider it that. It's supposed to protect you. All this stuff happens. He kills Baithazer or whatever, does his prayer, being like, you know, in the name of God, you're going back to fucking hell. Fuck you. Shoot him. The end of him. And long story short, guys, the guy with the dagger in the beginning was another soldier, or maybe he was, like, I feel like Baithazer was like, he had one job and he didn't do it well, so he went back to hell anyway. The devil's like, nah, you didn't kill her, you didn't get him, fuck you. So this guy, the one with the dagger in the beginning of the movie, it cuts back to him like once or twice. I mean, he just gets a car in the middle of the movie to drive to LA. I'm pretty sure that he, like, this guy, this Mexican guy, was supposed to be like the guy that really like possessed Angela. He was like the seed of the devil, pretty much. Maybe that's what that dagger was. It was basically like the seed of the devil's son. That's the way they like portrayed it, I guess. Because once she got possessed, then she like from the Mexican guy with that dagger, so the dagger is that, I'll get to what the dagger was really meant for. So yeah, he's like the seed or like the host that puts the demon into Angela. So she's in hell now with her sister. she's getting possessed. And you start realizing why Shia LaBeouf, the taxi driver's in this so much. He really looks up to John, really looks into demonology, knows these prayers, knows these things. So by the time he goes back to Midnight, which basically breaks his way in, and Midnight is a little more powerful, puts his like fingers on his like stomach, was like, "You don't disrespect me! You don't like cross the line of the balance." He's like, "Dude, fuck the balance. No one's playing by the rules. You're the only guys playing by the rules. The demons are here. They're trying to fuck shit up." And he's like, kind of believes him, but doesn't. But he's like, "Please help me out here." He gets in his chair, his official chair, finds out about the guy with the dagger, you know, John, which I'll try to find the scene, and since there's no security guy anymore, like I said, he like gets beat up, and then Chaz is like, "Haha, I could get in now." Gets in, and then you start realizing that Chaz is like makes into this shit and makes the bullets. The bullets are actually made of like solid gold like crosses and like relics of like, I don't know, prayer that are made into these bullets, kind of like vampires or like kind of thing. I don't know. It's just this thing that's like, you know, these bullets are specifically made out of these materials that are like will kill demons, which is kind of cool. So, you know, Chaz is like, "Can I come along?" Which is a little far-fetched. I don't know if you'd let a kid come along. But Midnight's like smiling and laughing a little bit. He's like, "You know, show this kid. Show him. You know, maybe," he was like, "You know, he could be the next generation John Constantine. Who knows? We need another guy like you maybe one day." So he ends up coming along. Chaz helps him a lot, you know. Chaz saves his life like once or twice towards the end of the film. So Chaz is like, "Yo, do you have one of these crosses? You know, like it's a holy cross." So anyway, back to where I was. The main like the Mexican guy, demon guy with the dagger, possesses Angela. He gets Angela basically by, so she's like doesn't wear the amulet, and she gets sucked through this whole building out all the way, and like gets shot all like sucked out all the way to the fucking site to where her sister died in this water. And water is like this lubricating like translucent thing that like bridges the like heaven, hell, and, you know, our universe, human universe. So water is that like bridge between. So he gets sucked into this pool where her sister died, and you know, throughout the whole movie, like I explained, the one with the 2 feet in the water, Midnight's chair, they had to throw water down, the fucking bathtub scene, everything has fucking water in it when it comes to like merging through heaven and hell and stuff like that, and like the human universe. And I thought that was kind of cool. I really liked that. I thought that was very creative. I don't know if that's like very, like, I don't know in the Bible or Satanic Bible or anything like that, if that's actually real or true, if it's like very accurate to it. But regardless, if it's made up or not, I think that's kind of cool. Kind of like makes it make sense, even though it's kind of a fantasy aspect of it. So, you have Chaz like having a shotgun with these bullets with John, going into the hospital, and you know, when John was in Midnight's chair, seeing all these visions, seeing the guy with the dagger, seeing where he's going, everything, he sees that he's possessed basically everybody in the hospital on this one floor, right in front of the doors of the pool, basically, where, you know, he has Angela possessed as kind of like a bodyguard. It's kind of like a guard thing.
Hi. My name's John. You are in violation of the balance. Leave immediately, or I will deport you.
Holy water?
Awesome scene. It's dark, so the CGI like looks good in this. I was like, this scene looked good. You know, like that's what made it up to the CGI in this movie. The CGI was bad, was really bad in some parts, but some of it was like pulled off, or some of the lighting, or some of the actual like parts of it, like made up for it, and like I don't know, like hid some of how it could have been worse, you know? So it was like a darker scene. Some of the CGI was looking really good. And basically, John was smart here in the end of the movie. He finds Angela possessed. Him and Chaz do this prayer together to do like an exorcism to take the demon out of her. The demon comes out and she's like, oh, whoa, like I'm healed from the fucking exorcism. He's like, you know, and then John's like, good job, dude, Chaz. And he's like, thanks, man, you're right, it's kind of not like the books or whatever. Well, he says that right before he dies, which is kind of sad. But then you start seeing that the fucking demon's in her stomach, you know? Which is what the whole reason of why she was involved in the first place. The demons were coming after her because they wanted the devil's son to be born from her. Because her sister's connected to her, she's in hell, all this fun stuff. So, all of a sudden, Gabriel comes out of nowhere, which we all thought was like the highest higher up of angels, which she fucking betrays the light side and goes to the dark side to have some kind of power trip or something. I mean, that's what I'm thinking, the reason why she like betrayed, like, I mean, I think it's in the Bible, the Satanic Bible, of like how to do this properly, of you need someone of like from God to help resurrect this demon child. So she was involved. She came down. She was like, well, sorry, yeah, we're gonna do this. Has the dagger, and the dagger is really supposed to cut open Angela's chest to have the, you know, that's how she's gonna birth it. C-section, you know? John gets thrown across the room, I think like super punched by Gabriel. It's one sad part where he's basically like, hey, God, I know I haven't been your favorite person, but I really need your help here. Starts praying as he's never done before. And when you die, time slows down or stands still in this movie. So what he does is he takes a piece of glass, he kills himself a second time, but he does everything strategically. And after he kills himself, he has Lucifer come down, and Lucifer was like, man, I came from hell. I wasn't gonna have anybody come and get you, John. I wanted to come specifically for you. And Lucifer's kind of funny. He's charismatic. He's not really like coming off evil. He's coming off a little goofy, but I kind of like how they had this character portrayed. And also a pretty famous actor. Have his name here. He was basically like, you know, we're gonna have you here, you know? And he's like, oh, I'm happy you came. Like, he kind of like knew this was all gonna happen, John. And he was like, look, I did this. I killed myself for the second time, basically because I just want to show you that in the room next door, your dagger is getting used by Gabriel right now. And he's like, no way. Really? And he's like, I'm not bullshitting you. Go in the other room and check it out. see what's going on. And literally, like, he's walking through, and it's like all time stand still, and it's like this glass is like bouncing off of him. It looks really dope. She sees Gabriel about to like rip open her chest. He moves Angela, which is Lucifer, moves Angela. The dagger goes through the ground. Gabriel looks at Lucifer, and Lucifer's like, what the fuck are you doing? You think you're gonna take my job? You think you're gonna take my position? Fuck you, you know? Basically, like, destroys every ability that she has, and now she's just like a human being. Like, her wings break off and all stuff. Like, I didn't like the wings, guys. There was one thing, like, when they show the angels, it's like these people, or specifically Gabriel, has these wings that are CGI. Terrible. I did not like it. And that, like, just because of the wings, I lowered it in my rating of movie, because I just really didn't like that. I don't know. They couldn't make practical wings. Like, look at the Thing that came out in, what, 1982, I think? And you couldn't tell me they couldn't make wings that moved? I don't know, guys. It was just, they over CGI'd some of it. I mean, like I said, like, Behazers, or whatever the fuck his name is, his CGI, I mean, his practical effects on his makeup look great. But I'm like, if some more of this was practical, maybe this would have been a much better looking movie. But anyway, Lucifer gets rid of Gabriel, like, kills her or whatever, or like beats her up to where she's like unconscious a little bit. But since Lucifer came, found his dagger, kind of saved the day, he's like, what do you want? What do you want, John? What do you want from this? I got my dagger back. Thank you. What do you want? And basically he's like, I want her sister to go to heaven. That's what I want. And he's like, you're gonna do that? You could choose anything. And you're gonna choose to have this girl that you're not even her boyfriend or her husband, her sister to go to heaven. And he says, yep, that's what I want. And it all was, I think, strategic in John's mind. Because once he did that, and he knew that he might probably want to have like one request from Lucifer. He took a gamble here, you know, I think. He's like, okay, she's in heaven now. You're coming with me. You're going to hell. Dragging him to hell, and like the ground is like breaking up, and he can't like bring him to hell. And he's like, fuck, you did human sacrifice. You sacrificed yourself for somebody else, or maybe for a person that you really had no connection to, or no connection to or care for. You still sacrifice yourself. And he realizes that John's gonna go to heaven now. And this is kind of funny. So you see him getting lifted up into the sky, into the clouds, and he's like going to heaven, and he's like this. He's like, I'm going to heaven. And Lucifer's like, fuck, we really wanted you to go to hell. And he's like, no, you belong to hell. And as he's going into heaven, he's like, nah, finally, I get what I want. You know, this is like my retirement. I'm going to hell. And then he does this whole like, fuck you. And Lucifer brings him back, sucks all the cancer out of his lungs. He's like, nope, you're going to live longer, and you're going to dictate whether you're going to go to fucking heaven or hell or not. I'm not going to make this happen. I want you in hell. So this is how John Constantine survives the whole thing. He was supposed to go to heaven. He saves Angela's sister. He saves Angela. Couldn't save Chaz, unfortunately. But it sets it up for a sequel. It sets it up for what's maybe next, you know? And the one little thing that kind of made me smile at the end of all of this is he had to die twice to really change who he was, really change his chances of like going to heaven, which is why he did all of these jobs for, you know, deporting demons and everything. It's kind of like a full circle in his life kind of thing. And now that he has a second chance to be healthier and make better decisions, you think that he's going to take a cigarette out at the end. But instead, he just takes out a piece of gum and puts it in his mouth, and he's like, that's it. And you can see that he's making steps in changing. And yeah, I mean, like even that, and then the ending of Gabriel being like, oh, you want revenge? Here, take the gun, shoot me. Because that's another way for him to maybe do something wrong to go to hell. So she's like, fuck you. And he's like, nope, not gonna kill you. You're a fucking human being now. Like her wings kind of broke off, and there's like little pieces of her wings that are practical FX that look pretty good. So that she's like, "Oh, you're doing really well, John. See, you're improving. You didn't want to kill me." And I really hate her. I really hate Gabriel sometimes. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the meaning of it. Like, that's her character. You don't really want to love her in the end, you know? So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that. Like, he's really trying to be a different guy in the end of it. Whether for his own benefit or not, sets it up for a sequel that we never got. And yeah, that's the ending of Constantine, guys. So this is my review, guys. Tell me what you think about Constantine. If you've seen this movie, tell me what your favorite Keanu Reeves movie is. All in the comments down below. If you're listening to the podcast on Spotify, thank you for listening. But we also have a filmed version now on YouTube. You can find this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, the Anchor app. And yeah, my name is Daniel Lewis. You can find me at Instagram at Daniel Lewis Music, as well as the podcast, the Microphone Madness Podcast. I'm a singer of a band called Radiate. We're a progressive rock band from New York City, as well as an indie pop synth rock band called Internet Tears. So I do a lot of music. I do this podcast for fun because I love movies, music, and video games, and that kind of stuff. And this is why I wanted to explain and bring Keanu Reeves to attention. Keanu Reeves is an awesome actor. He's gone through a lot in his life, and you could really tell through his acting. And yeah, good movie, great actor. Thanks for watching this part of the podcast. And you guys have a wonderful rest of the day.